just introduce myself. My name is Noor Zufari. I am an event designer and freelancer based in Tampa. And this session was born out of a weekly Zoom that myself and a few others are doing, really just to like meet new faces, give ourselves an escape every week. We're all physically distancing, or I hope we are. And so, I'm getting to have conversations with a person in Hawaii that I would never have been able to have that opportunity to. So it's a really cool silver lining. So after this session, I will send out an email if everybody's welcome. So please feel free to join in. And the other group leaders are nicer than me and better prepared than me, and it's always a lovely time. And we're always looking for specialty topics to cover. So on Monday, Jackie Cole Photography did one for photographers about contracts and rescheduling and everything. But by far, the number one topic has been sales and by extension marketing. And so we had to bring in the professional for that. So Beth Chapman is a fashion and wedding industry veteran with several years of powerful experience as a stylist, a bridal boutique owner, a mentor, author several times over, and a wedding fashion consultant. Beth has been successfully training bridal store owners on effective sales techniques for years, and after a lot of encouragement and popular demand, is expanding her education to all wedding professionals. So we'll touch on that more later, but you might have seen her on the main stage of Engage, the Not Pro workshops, or any number of other platforms. But best of all, she's just a genuinely kind, authentic person that works her tail off. So when she speaks from knowledge and in her own voice, which is a lovely one. So I'm going to be here along the way if you have questions or need anything, but after Beth's presentation, again, I'll unmute everyone so you can ask questions too. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, thanks, Noor. Such an awesome intro. Well, I'm so happy that you guys took some time out of your day to join me. One of the things I am really passionate about, I'm passionate about a lot of things, but one of the things that I'm really passionate about is helping wedding pros get comfortable with selling. And as I started on this sort of selling journey and owning my bridal store, and I started educating bridal store owners about 5 years ago on sales. And then it sort of evolved into the whole wedding space, dealing with wedding pros. And what I consistently hear from people is that they don't like selling because they're just not comfortable with it. And so many people say to me, I wish I could just focus on my craft. I wish I could just be the amazing photographer that I am, or be the amazing event designer that I am, and not have to worry about this aspect of selling my services. I just wish that they would hire me just because I'm talented and that's it. But unfortunately, as we know, especially in the engaged community, there are so many talented people out there. So this is something that we really need to become comfortable with, and we need to be able to wrap our arms around so that we can continue to be successful in our craft, but make money at it, which is so important. And I think which is all of our ultimate goals, right? So, but I know right now a lot of people aren't comfortable with selling. So you're dealing with the fact that you're not comfortable with selling in general. And now we're in a global pandemic and people are losing their jobs and people are stressed beyond. And, they don't know what's happening with the future of their wedding. So you don't feel comfortable right now trying to sell them something. And I totally get that. And I think that I think this is the perfect time to start selling to them. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about that fear. And I want to talk about a mindset shift that I want you all to work on trying to make. And really, it's as simple as this. Instead of thinking about selling as that, trying to sell them something, because I think we all feel a little bit like we're trying to force something on the client, right? And right now we're all women that happen to be in this Zoom call, but I'm hoping this is going to be viewed by men as well. But I think with women in particular, we're even more uncomfortable with selling than with men. And I think partially that's because we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to be bossy. And I think in general, as women, we want people to like us, right? So I think we feel like if we start selling something to someone, what if they don't like me? Or what if I'm too pushy? Or what if I push too far, right? So I think we need to start to shift our mindset a little bit and stop thinking about it as selling and start thinking about it as helping the client to buy. especially as women, I think that tiny little shift in our mindset will help tremendously, because we all want to help people, right? And we all are passionate about our craft. So if we think about it in helping them versus pushing something on them, it really helps to frame it in a different way and make you get a little more comfortable with it. Another way to look at it is really just thinking about it as problem solving. So your client has a need that they need to fill. So it might be that they are, at a loss with where to begin with their wedding plans. So they need a wedding planner, or they have an amazing wedding planner, but they really want their wedding to be beautiful and over the top. So they need a designer, or they need someone to capture the memories at their wedding. So they need a photographer, they need a videographer, they want a beautiful cake at their wedding, they need someone to bake their cake, they need invitations. They have these needs for their wedding, right? So you are there to fill their need. You are there to solve whatever problem that they have. So you have to think about it in that way. And I think it helps to change the mindset and create a mindset shift. The other thing about selling that's super important that I train on all the time, and for those who've seen my videos, I know Bree's on here and she's seen the series 2.0, which is my training video series that I've created specifically for bridal store owners. The one thing I talk about in selling is the relationship. The key to selling is developing a relationship with the client. And if you don't have a relationship with them, they are not going to book you. That's the bottom line. And I think we've all heard the quote that people like to buy from those that they like, know, and trust. If they don't like you, if they don't get to know you, and if you don't develop some level of trust with them, they're not going to book you. So that is exactly why I think it's so important right now to think about selling to your client. This is actually the perfect time to sell to them because you have a captive audience. So the difference in selling right now is it's a different type of selling. You're not basically coming right out and asking them to buy something right now at this moment. What you're doing right now is something that I call the pre-sell. That's the phase that you're in right now with these clients. So there's all these different phases of selling that I train on, but the pre-sell is the very first phase. And the other thing I often train on is about closing the sale, because that's what everybody wants to know, right? Like, how do you close the sale? That's the number one question I get when I'm training on selling is, how do you close the sale? And the really important thing to remember, and a big takeaway from this talk that I hope you'll leave with, is that closing the sale doesn't take place at the end of the sale. It's not like all of a sudden a cannon goes off or there's a rainbow that suddenly shoots across the sky. It's a progression. And the closing of the sale actually starts before you even meet the client. And that's what the pre-sell is. The pre-sell is the first step in closing. And this is the phase that we're in right now. And this is the phase that I want you guys to focus on. So, the one thing that we've learned from about millennials and Gen Zs alike is that they're all about research and they're all about fully vetting their wedding professional before they book them. They want to get to know you as a person. They want to know your values. They want to know what you believe in. And they also want to know that you're talented. They also want to know what other people think about you. So they are fully vetting you, fully researching you, before you've even had any kind of interaction with them, before they've DM'd you, before they've filled out an inquiry form on your website, before they've sent you an email. They are going on all of your social media channels. They are looking on the Knot and Wedding Wire. They're looking at reviews. They're fully vetting you. So this is the phase that we're in right now. Our clients, our potential clients, have so much time on their hands. People are spending on average 15 hours a day on their phones. So they're using that time to look at you and to learn about you. So this is the time that's so key for you to be putting the right information out there. It might not mean that you're selling to them right this second, but what it's doing is it's getting them prepared to buy from you. So you're basically kind of buttering them up, you're educating them, and you're getting them ready so that when you are ready to start selling and you do begin that more face-to-face relationship and you start conversing, they're ready. They're already in. They've bought in. They love you. And what that's going to do is it's going to make selling and the feeling of selling a little bit easier for you because it doesn't going to feel like a hard sell. You're already halfway there. So let's talk about what to do and what the key things are to the pre-sale. So there's really three things for the pre-sale that are applicable to right now, because your pre-sale has to be slightly different right now than it would really ordinarily be, just because of the environment that we're in. So the three ways that you really need to approach your clients right now in the pre-sale are: you have to lead with compassion, and I'm going to go through each one of them individually, but here they are quickly. Lead with compassion, educate the client, potential client, and inspire them. Those are the three things that you need to be doing right now to make your pre-sale successful. So the first thing is leading with compassion. Everyone, I don't think there is anyone that is exempt from what is going on right now in the world. Certainly, it's affecting us all in different ways. It's affecting us all emotionally differently. It's affecting people physically. It's affecting people financially. No one is exempt. And you need to show some compassion in what's happening. There are a lot of people that ask me, how do I handle it right now? Do I even talk about what's going on, or do I just power through like it's business as usual? My advice is you need to talk about what's going on. I mean, again, no one's exempt. This is not a secret of what is happening. So it's really important to talk about it and show compassion, that you feel for your clients. You feel for every single one of your brides who may having to postpone a wedding, or you feel for those people who are just got engaged, and this is supposed to be a joyous time, and now they're paralyzed because they don't know how to move forward with their planning because of what's going on in the world. So show that compassion. This is a really good time for you to also put out there what your core values are for your company. That's a whole nother talk for us that we could go into, to how to identify your core values. Someone that I love who teaches on core values is Michael Hyatt. So you could do a little research on him and how to identify your core values. But this is a great time for you to be really honing and identifying what your core values are, and then communicating those with your potential clients. It's so important to millennials and Gen Zs to know that you stand for something and what it is that you stand for. And so right now is a great time to be identifying that, and with compassion, putting that out there. You really want to show your potential clients your heart right now, and you really want to show them who you are. It's really important that when you're communicating, communicating in a consistent tone and the way that you want to be heard. So what I mean by that is, if the branding and the feel of your company is like a little edgy and a little funky, like, communicate in that way. You might throw an F-bomb in there, and that might not be for some people, but for your target client, for the people that you are targeting, they want to know that you're effing frustrated right now, or you may have a business like mine, like my bridal store, that is much more about catering to a timeless classic client. I would never use the F word in my communication with my clients, right? So for me, it's a much more professional tone that I take. So I want you to be really careful when you're communicating that compassion, doing it in a way that feels authentic to your brand and also is in keeping with whatever your core values are that you have identified. And that's going to go such a long way in connecting with your target client and starting the process of building that relationship, which is so important in eventually booking them and closing the sale. So number 2 is education. Again, captive audience. We need to utilize this time to educate our future clients. So this can take many, many different forms. You can be educating them on just the industry as a whole. You can let them know, whether it's bringing someone in like me who can talk about the ideal time frame for when they should be buying their wedding gown, or someone like me talking about how time frames have shifted right now because of what is going on with this global pandemic, and the fashion aspect of the wedding industry is really a global industry. So how this is affecting timelines and how your brides should be purchasing their dresses now. You can be educating them on your craft. If you're a photographer and you shoot film versus digital photography, why? Why do you shoot film? what makes film so special, right? If you have some unique process if you bake cakes and there's something really special about what you do in creating your cakes, or it is a really long process, like people wonder, why is my cake so expensive? Educate them, take them through use this time to create a video and show them the entire process from inspiration and sketch all the way through baking to delivering it on the wedding day, so they can see everything that goes into it. And they're like, holy crap, I had no idea. No wonder it's $9 a slice, or whatever the case may be. So use this time to educate them. It's so important. And it's also, this is a great time for you to really identify what your competitive advantages are. And those things are things that set you apart from your competition. Those things that make you unique, and those things that are going to make someone want to book with you. Another really good exercise is to lay out who you think your competitors are, and jot down what your competitors do. And then counter to that, what are the things that you do that are different from your competitors? And that will sort of help you to identify what your unique competitive advantages are. And you should be talking about those right now. You should be never ever would I say to throw a competitor under the bus, or to say I'm better than this person, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about things that are observable differences in your businesses from theirs, and you talking about your own business and what sets you apart. What's your unique process? What is your the unique competitive advantage, the unique value that you have? This is a great time to educate your potential clients on those things and show them those things. I think it's also a great time to educate them just in terms of lingo in your industry. So Bree is on here, who's a bridal store owner with me. And I think sometimes we forget in our world that brides don't know what a bustle is, or they don't know what Shantung is versus Mikado versus Dupioni versus chiffon, right? So there are nuances within your specific aspect of the industry and a certain type of language that your potential client isn't going to understand. So use this time to educate them, so that when you do come together and meet and have a conversation and you throw out those things, it's not going to make them feel uncomfortable. You know, sometimes when you're talking with someone and you're in that selling process and you're in the mode, right? And you're just throwing stuff out there and they're like, I have no idea what the heck they're saying. But they're too embarrassed or too shy to be like, excuse me, I don't know what a bustle is, or I don't know what chiffon is. Like, I don't know what you're saying to me. And in that moment, they're starting to recoil and they're starting to lose trust a little bit. So use this time to educate them on that terminology, because what that will do is it will show them that you're an expert in what you do. They're going to look at you in a different light, and it's going to help to develop trust, which is another really important key to booking the client or getting the sale. Now, I was watching the news this morning and they were talking about contact tracing and all these things. And I'm like, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, those are words that I never thought I would know what they meant or use in conversation. Like, there's all this lingo right now, right? That like, we're saying all these things that we never, social distancing, which who even knew what that was before this? Who knew what contact tracing was? Who knew what oxy, whatever, chloroquine, whatever the heck that stuff is that they're like, whatever. We never knew. But now all of a sudden we know, right? We're educated on it. This is what I'm talking about. Like, we need to educate them on the terminology of what it is that we do and our expertise. It's going to build the trust, and it's going to help you to communicate better once you do connect and come together. Third thing is inspiration, which is pretty self-explanatory and pretty simple. But the reality is, couples are immersed in planning their wedding right now. So they want to see weddings. They want to see beautiful things that are going to inspire them. On the bride side of things, brides love nothing more than looking at other brides. They just love it. And so give them inspiration, give them things to look at, but do it in a way that shows your craft. Use your words and your work to show and inspire future clients so that they get to the point between seeing your amazing, beautiful heart, right? And seeing that you care, that you seem like an expert in your field. Like, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. They really seem knowledgeable, and they're taking the time to make sure that I understand what they do. And P.S., look at what amazing work they've created. You do those three things. When it's time for them to send you an inquiry, they are halfway there. They are halfway to buying. That pre-sale has taken care of 3/4 of what you need to do. And that's the area, that's what I really need you to be focusing on right now. And Instagram is a perfect tool and a perfect place to be using Instagram, Instagram stories, Pinterest. Those are all the places to be doing all of these things right now. But you need to be intentional with your posting. So whenever you post anything, I really want you to think about it having a purpose. I really want you to stop and pause and think, or as you're mapping out your social media for the week or the month or however you do it, think about the purpose of it and what purpose is each of those posts serving, and how can you mix it up to alternate between compassion, education, inspiration as you're posting. And it will help you, first of all, formulate and come up with content, which I know can be a little bit hard, especially right now when we're all feeling, I think, a little bit uninspired. But also it's making sure that you're serving that purpose and helping the client get to what they want. The last thing I want to talk about before taking questions is pricing. This is another question I'm getting a lot right now, and people are panicking and thinking that in order to get a sale, in order to book more clients in this climate, they have to lower their prices. Please don't. I'm telling you right now, you don't have to lower your prices. But what you do need to do is give more value. So they need to think that they're almost getting a deal by your price because of what they're getting by booking with you. So this is a great time for you to be evaluating your business, and it really goes hand in hand with your competitive advantages. Look at your process every step of the way and how you're creating a client experience for your client every step of the way, and what are things that you can add into that client experience that might add a little bit of value. So, you may wonder, okay, how do I even come about that? How do I know what my client values? You can reach out to former clients that you have great relationships with. I know that we have so many, everybody has some of those, right? And just be like, let me ask you a question. What did you value most about us working together? Or what was the most important factor to you when you booked me? Price aside, because you don't want them to say price, because then you're like, crap, that's not what I want. That's not the answer I want. Say price aside, what were the most important factors for you in booking me? And you also can ask them about booking other wedding professionals too, because that might help you to gain information. Like when you were booking your beauty people, besides price, what were the most important value? What were the most important things that you valued in making that decision? And the reason why I say to bring up other wedding professionals too that you have good relationships with is I think you can collaborate with people in your network and build value together. So there's a way that you can say, okay, let's think about this in our community, and say, okay, for Noor in Tampa, who can you connect with, whether it's a floral designer, a baker, a bridal store, and say, okay, what, without discounting, we're not going to say, okay, everybody give a 10% discount. That's not what I'm talking about. What can we do to make our client experience better as a community and give the client more value? And PS, hopefully then that client's going to book all of us collectively. So for me, one of the things I'm going to start doing is making myself personally accessible to certain event planners in my community, and say, if you send your client to me, I'm going to work with her personally. I'm not going to give her a stylist. She's going to get to work with me. She doesn't have to pay for it. She's going to get all my knowledge and expertise because I value that relationship. So it's helping the event planner because she's giving her client something. If you become my client, you're going to have access to this person who's an expert and a PS has the most beautiful wedding dresses around. And it may be something that you work with a beauty person, and maybe she, I don't even know, does a face mask or something that prior to doing a trial, or does something really special on the wedding day that makes, does a steam facial and puts on like mantra, music. I don't know. It depends on who your target client is and what they value. But hopefully, together, between what you can increase the value in your business and what your community can do, you can make your clients feel really taken care of and really special, and make them want to feel and be part of this thing that you've created, and want to make sure that they have that really positive energy on their wedding day. So much trepidation right now around their wedding because they just don't know what to do. They don't know if they should move it. And if they move it, are they going to have to move it again? And are all their guests going to be safe? And are they going to have to limit the number of people that they have at their wedding? And how are they going to make those decisions? They're just paralyzed right now. So if you can go to them and offer them something that's going to make their wedding day, whenever it happens, that much more memorable and that much more special, and make them feel that much more at ease on their wedding day and through the rest of their planning process, because guess what? This section sucks. They are just so frustrated. If you can do that for them, that in itself is value. And they're going to want to book you, and they're going to want to have you be part of their whole wedding planning process and their experience. So that's what I got. So I'd love to answer any questions you guys have, because I'm sure you have a lot. And hopefully I can either provide you some insight of my own or send you in some direction that can help you out.
First of all, you killed that.
Oh, thanks. Oh, somebody's asking what the heck is Shantung. See what I mean? So funny. So Shantung is a silk fabrication. It's really crisp and has a little bit of a sheen to it. It's very commonly used in wedding gowns, structured wedding gowns, sometimes in bridesmaids' dresses. So that's what Shantung is. Shantung actually refers to the weave of the fabric. So silk is the fabric and Shantung is the weave. There you go. See what I mean? And I'm sure every single one of you guys have something in your particular aspect of the industry, terminology that you use all the time, and the client is like, that is a foreign language. I have no idea what you just said, but they're probably too afraid to ask. So this is a great way to educate them, show them that you're an expert and you know what you're talking about, and then make them feel more comfortable when you do have a conversation.
I love that. So this question it was sent in remotely, but I've told people this a couple of times, but people keep asking about, like, how do you even get the leads in to be having these more intentional conversations? And the thing that I've tried to repeat is that if you were having an issue with lead generation before this, there's not like a light switch that just suddenly came on.
Absolutely.
But just in terms of, like, everybody's asked to identify their target client to go after, but do you have any thoughts on how to diversify who's reaching out to you and who's following you?
Yeah. So I think, lead generation, it's the name of the game, right? Like, you want to attract the right people to you, because otherwise they're never going to find you and never going to book you. So the first thing I think you need to do that helps with lead generation in general is just creating an amazing network and an amazing community of people that will refer you. So that is both on the professional level, so in your same industry, but also of former clients. It's so important that clients right now, millennials and Gen Zs, do everything by committee. So they want to know everything is about the review. So I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she does not buy a single thing without reading a review, ever. So they want to know that you're amazing. So it's really important that you're putting reviews out there. Maybe what you have to try to do to build more of a following is to get some amazing reviews and do some Facebook and Instagram ads with gorgeous images of your work and amazing reviews. And then be really intentional about the hashtags that you're using. They're going to attract more people to your page and to get them engaged with you. And then it's so important, I can't stress enough how important knowing who your target client is and speaking to that client as if there's one person. There's going to be, I'm working on a selling course that we're going to get to in a minute, but within that I train on your figure out who your target client is, but then within that having different personas or some people call them avatars, which just reminds me of that movie. Was that movie called Avatar? I think it was. I just think of those creepy, weird, like people that look like a praying mantis. But anyway, so identifying their, maybe 3 or 5 personas within your target client. But I can't stress enough how important it is to go through that exercise and identify who your target client is, because otherwise you don't know how to generate leads, because it's really what it is the law of attraction. What you're putting out there is what you're going to get back. And if you're not putting out there what your target client is looking for, you're never going to get it back. So it's so key to take this time to identify who your target client is and identify your competitive advantages and use those in all of your communications.
I love that. So I did allow, you can unmute yourself if you want to chime in if you have a question. But while you think of your question, will you please tell us about this e-course you're working on?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm in the throes of, I've had a lot of success with this a video training course that I created 5 years ago for bridal store owners called the Series 2.0. And now that I'm working with all wedding pros, I am creating a course called Simplified Selling for wedding pros, because my goal is really to make selling less intimidating. And so it really breaks down the selling process and gives you tips on things like identifying your target client and your core values, and communicating those effectively in the selling process. So that's going to be out soon. I'm working on it, hopefully by June. So working hard right now on that.
You're always working hard.
I know. It's a blessing and a curse, I have to be honest with you. I wish I could shut my brain off sometimes, but
I know, but you do us all a service when you don't. So
please. Oh, thanks. What else? You guys must have questions. Anything else? Like, what do you feel like your biggest challenges are when you're faced with selling and you're like, what paralyzes you in the process?
Now or even before the current situation?
Yeah, always, just in general in selling. Anybody got anything?
I would say that I never really like closing the sale, as you were mentioning earlier. I give people their options and I'm like, all right, let me know. And kind of leave it at that, which seems to work okay, but I could probably be a lot better at that.
That's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. And I have this whole, this whole section in my course about overcoming objections and how to, before you say to them, I'm just going to let you think about it. You need to make sure, first of all, you need to be thinking about closing, like I talked about, not just as this thing that happens at the end, right? So you have to go through all the steps, the pre-sale. You need to make sure you have develop the relationship, build the trust, educate them, do all those things, because otherwise that closing of the sale, the booking of the client is never going to happen. But then it's really important in that moment, because I know you get to the end of your spiel, or you get to the end of your inquiry phase or whatever, and you're like, there's this awkward silence and you're like, what do I say? So you just say, all right, great. Well, you can think about it, and then I'll follow up with you. And you need to work on that. So one of the things you can do, I have this concept that will be the title of a book someday called Ask One More Question. And it really it starts with one question, but then hopefully it's going to lead to a dialogue that's going to uncover any objections that the client might have. Because if your client walks away from that meeting with you and they have any unanswered questions or any hidden objections that you didn't overcome, they're not going to book you. But what the problem with this generation that we're dealing with is they're not always honest about those. They want you to like them. So they're like smiling and happy, and in the back of their mind, they're like, I'm never going to book this person. But to you, you're like, you think this is the greatest thing. And then what happens? You get ghosted, right? And you're like, why did I just get ghosted? Like, why did this happen? It's because there was some unhidden objection that wasn't answered, or some question that wasn't addressed. So it's really important that at the end of the conversation, you will have been going through this whole process that I train on, where you are understanding what's important to them in the process. And so it's really important to ask them the question about if you have addressed whatever that thing is that's really important to them. So let's just say that you are a photographer and they're coming to you because they want their pictures to feel totally personal. They want them to feel like it's only you and them and nobody else is there, right? So you're going to be talking through your whole selling process about how you do that and how you achieve that, and you're going to be showing your work. And then your one more question can be like, after hearing all that and seeing all that, do you feel like, do you feel like it would feel like it was just going to be me and you on the wedding day? And wait and see what they say. Pause. And your instinct is going to be to keep talking. Don't keep talking. Have them answer. And if there's a long, awkward silence, let there be a long, awkward silence and just smile and look at them. Because they're going to say something and they're going to say yes, but, or absolutely. But I am worried about the price, or it gets them talking instead of you just ending the spiel and ending it. You want to get them talking and telling you what they're thinking and what they're feeling before you end that consult, so that you can know where you stand. And either it allows you to keep that one more question allows you to keep the conversation going right then and there and continue to dig and uncover what their challenges are and answer their objections, or it helps you to know that they love you and maybe they're going to book you right then and there. And then you can come up with a question of, do you feel like you're comfortable doing this right now? Like, would you feel comfortable booking me today? But sometimes I think what happens is in the selling process, we go through our spiel and we do our canned spiel that we always do. And then we end with, okay, you ready to book me? And the client's like, oh my God, that I wasn't ready for that. Like, so there's a process to it. There's a finite process. And I think by ending with a question and making sure that you understand how it is that they're feeling, and you can try to uncover, your question might be, you asked me a question before about XYZ. Did I answer that for you? Is that clear? Or are you clear on my process? I think I am, but I do have a question about this. And it just opens up the conversation and keeps the conversation going and allows you to know where the client's head is. It may allow you to see that, this isn't going to work. This isn't the right fit. And that's okay, because then you're not going to waste your time following up, right? It's refreshing because then you know where everybody stands and you can focus your attention on other clients instead of continuing to try to follow up and make this sale happen that was never intended to happen in the first place. Does that make sense?
You brought up a really good point that with some of my consulting clients, I found a lot of times when we do role play, in the first 5 to 10 minutes, they haven't let the client or potential client even talk yet. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine a bride walking into your store and you just start talking at her and you don't even let her look at the dress first. It's like
one of the things I train on is so important is asking questions, because questions are so important to uncover what their vision is and uncover what their motives are. But you have to listen. Listening is twice as important as talking in the selling process. I was on This Week in Weddings podcast, which I love those gals. And I was training on this tailored selling approach that I train on, how to sell based on personality. And one of the things I talk about is the importance of educating the client and letting them know your level of expertise, because that builds trust. So they said to me, so are you saying that I should just roll out my resume, just tell them all the things I've ever done? And I was like, absolutely not. There is absolutely a way to educate them and tell them all of your strengths and all of your competitive advantages and all of the things that you do in a conversational way that's not just a laundry list, because deep down, they want to talk about their wedding. They don't want to hear about you. They want to talk about themselves, and they want to hear what you're going to do for me as a client, but they don't want to just hear your laundry list. But it is important to give them your laundry list and to show them your expertise and show them how you've overcome whatever challenge it is that they're concerned about. Like, they're having an outdoor wedding and it's tented, and their biggest fear is, what if it rains on the wedding day? So what are you going to do? This is relevant whether you're a photographer or a planner. You are going to whip out a wedding that you did that happened in the rain, and you're going to show them how beautiful it is. And you're going to use that time to educate them about your expertise and how you can think on your feet, and but all in a conversational way. And then they're going to ask another question, or you're going to ask a question, they're going to give an answer, and that's going to give you an opening to talk about that wedding that you did in Dubai that was so beautiful. That has to be relevant to the conversation. But so it all has to be conversational. And it's so important that when you're listening, you're really listening. So oftentimes I think when we listen, we're just thinking about what we're going to say next. And we're not really listening. And unless you listen to the client, you're not going to understand what it is that's important to them. And you're not going to be able to uncover what hidden questions they might have, or what those deep-seated objections might be that they have. And if you don't know those, and if you can't address them, they're not going to book you.
Absolutely. So you have a couple of questions, and some were sent to me privately, but they kind of touch on the same things. But we'll start with Tracy's question. What do you think we should tell people who want to book, but we don't think we will be back by then yet?
Oh, yeah. So like what you're saying, Trace, is like they want to book you, but they were shooting for a September wedding, and we're not sure we're going to be ready.
Exactly.
That's okay. So what you're going to say is, we all hope that we're going to get back to normal by September. That's all of our goals. But what I like to do is work with a contingency plan. I'm a planner, and I always like to have plan B, C, and D. So what I would say is we would shoot for that day, but we would have backup plans, and we would put things in place just in case, or it may be, whatever that may be. And you're going to show them how you think on your feet, and you're going to show them how you are innovative and how you've solved problems, and you can give them an example of something that you've done before. Because when they're asking you that question, right, they're telling you what they're worried about. So they're asking you the question, but they're telling you that they're worried that we're not going to be back yet. So that's their big thing. So you're going to make sure that you're addressing that big thing, and you're going to encourage them to book you, because they want to work with you for you. They don't want to work with you for that date. It's about you. So they're going to work with you, and we're going to figure out the date together as a team.
Love that. So Stephanie brought up ghosting, but I think Beth kind of touched on that.
Yeah,
that
it's all about before you leave each other, whether it's virtually or whether it's an email, or whether it's an email is a little bit hard, but in any kind of consult with them, trying to uncover what their hidden objections are, or that one thing that is like they're most worried about on their wedding day, and addressing it, because that will help you not get ghosted.
How do you sell the experience of working with you that they will not truly understand until they're actually working with you?
I think one of the important parts about selling, regardless of what you do as a wedding pro, is making sure that the client is clear about your process. So each one of us has a unique process. And if you don't, now's a great time to identify what that process is. And then OPS, when you are identifying that process, you're going to identify how you are delighting your client in every single step of that process. But so to answer your question, what I would say is make sure that they're clear on what your process is. So as part of your consultation, it's really important. It may not be something you say verbally. It may be a document that you send them that's really beautifully designed, that shows them how you work, because it's setting the ground rules, and it allows you to know early on whether this is going to be a right fit for them and for you. Because they might be the type of person that needs constant attention, and they're only going to be comfortable if they can text you 24/7, 365 days a year. And that you may have very strict boundaries, and that's not the way you work. And if that's like something that is like a stop for you, like I have a very strict policy, that needs to be communicated in early on in the process about that part of your process, because then they're going to be like, okay, then you're not for me, and you're going to know that they're not for you. So that is the way to do it. So you have to speak to them, you have to show them your process, and then speak to them as if they're already working with you. So you can say things like, when we work together, it's going to be like this, this, and this, and this. So it allows them to almost visualize what working with you is going to be like, even though they're not yet. And I think that's what a lot of clients need to do, to be able to visualize the whole process and understand the whole process before they can book you and before they can commit.
I think this kind of can flow from what you're saying, but the question came up that I have an associate. How do I sell myself and book myself clients without comparing to my associate?
So I think that goes back to the value, because I deal with this all the time. I provide day of wedding dressing service for clients, and I have a team of stylists that work with me. And some people want to book me for me because they want Beth Chapman. And some people just want the service and they don't care who it is. They want a warm body that's going to help them put on their wedding dress and make sure it's steamed, just so that they don't have to do it themselves, right? So I think it goes back to creating value. What's the value of working with you as you versus the value of working with your assistant? And there has to be a very clear delineation, both in price, but also in what they're getting. Certainly there's a value to working with me as Beth Chapman because I'm me, right? But that can't be the only thing. There needs to be additional value. And maybe it's your levels of experience or your level of expertise, but that has to be clearly communicated so that they understand why there's a difference in price and why they would pay extra to book you versus your associate.
Which I think also comes back to, like, at what point was the associate introduced? Did they come in saying, hi, I'm trying to pick, or do you realize that they can't necessarily afford you, and then you
right? And I think that's what it is. I think that's all part of the inquiry phase. I think it's really important. An important part of selling is looking at how you handle inquiries in your company and going back to those, asking the right questions, making sure you're asking the right questions that helps you understand what the client values, and then it'll allow you, to your point, to know, okay, I'm going to suggest that maybe they book, maybe my associate is better for me, so at least better for them, so at least I'm preserving the income within my company, I'm keeping them within my company, but it's, they can't afford me, or they don't need me, or I have this opportunity to book this other bigger wedding on this day, so I'm going to talk up my associate and to keep that money within the company.
With that, do you have any avenues beyond basically social media that have been successful with your pre-selling process?
Word of mouth. Having other people sell for you is a really important part of the pre-sale. So it goes back to reviews, making sure that you're soliciting reviews and getting reviews on Wedding Wire, and then that you have reviews posted on your website and on your social media, and just get other people to sing your praises, whatever that may be. If it's a photographer, maybe you're offering to put images up in your favorite venues, so that when they're visiting the venue, they're seeing these gorgeous images. Or you offer images for their website, so when they're on the venues, you think about the person who's the touch point before you, and make sure you have an amazing relationship with that person, and you are keeping them informed on what you're doing and your process, so that they can begin selling your process for you before the client even touches base with you. So Tracy Domino's on this call. She's a dear friend of mine, but I work with her all the time with my day of wedding dressing service, and with Nor too. And Tracy sells my services better than me. She gets all of her clients to book me because there's a value to Tracy to having me there on the wedding day, and she's able to articulate that and communicate that beautifully to the client. So, but some clients still want to talk with me, and that's great, because when I talk with them, they book me, which is amazing. But they're already three-quarters of the way sold because Tracy sold them for me. So the key is to get other people, whether it's clients or colleagues, to help to sell for you.
She converts it from an option to a necessity, which
absolutely, yeah.
I'm still developing a process of working with clients, and I know I'm lacking particularly at the beginning of the process in handling inquiries. They're an invitation designer. Do you have any resources for developing a good process of working with clients?
I think it starts with, so Rachel, I think what's really important is starting with identifying who the target client is and identifying what you think the target client values, your target client values. And then in the inquiry phase, there's a portion of educating them and making sure that you're telling them about what you do and in a way that it's highlighting what it is that they value. And then putting together a series of questions in your inquiry that's really going to uncover if they're the right client for you, if you're the right fit. So it's not just what's the date of your wedding, your name, the date of the wedding, your address, your cell phone number, your whatever. Put in some really targeted questions in there that tie back to what your core values are of your company and what the core values of your target client are. And so that when you're reading that inquiry inquiry, you're like, okay, this is the right fit, or okay, this is not. And it goes beyond budget. It's not just, do they have the money to work with you? You know, for you, it's going to be about like, do people either appreciate paper or they don't, right? It's like, it's either something that's super important to them and they want to work with you to craft something that's so beautiful that's going to make such a first impression, because invitations are really the first impression of the wedding, right? So that you want someone who wants to knock the socks off of the people and set the tone for the whole wedding by your wedding invitation. That's your target client, versus someone who's just going to go online. Minted has beautiful invitations. They don't care. They want to put their money elsewhere. So you want to ask the right questions to make sure that that client truly values what it is that you do, and truly embraces what your unique process, whatever that may be. And that's going to lead you in the right direction when you handle your inquiries.
I would also say to Rachel, think about the times that you've been sold to and think through that process.
Yeah, because that's such a good point, because the key to selling, and the key to this mindset shift is to make the person feel like they're not being sold to. Because the second, you guys know this, the second you feel like you're getting sold to, you're like, I'm out of here. This is like the worst sales pitch I've ever heard. It's not about that. You want to come across as you're helping them to buy, and you're helping them to navigate through this process that's very foreign to them. That's the way we need to look at selling.
Absolutely. And then in terms of like creating an actual process, again, just think of your, like, I'm very absent-minded if somebody doesn't follow up with me.
Yeah.
Even if I wanted it, I might forget. And then I remember and I panic because it's too late. So Phil brought this up, but I often find that the couple is talking to the planner far before they ever book me. Sometimes they'll book me or not book me without talking to me, which I feel is my strongest selling point. Any tips on selling without getting to talk to the client outside of your website?
Hi, Phil, first of all. And I agree with you. I think talking to you would make someone want to book them for sure. You know, seeing your work is one thing, which is so amazing, but then there's something amazing about you as a person that I think it's so important that they get to know. So I would just, maybe, again, it goes back to process. I think you should put that in as part of your process. Part of my process is that I like to talk to clients before they book me, because honestly, you want to make sure they're the right fit for you too. Right? I mean, I know you want their money, and if they have the money, sure, I'll take it. But if we're all doing this for a living, we want to do it in a way that we love and that we're passionate about, and we're working with great people who are the people we want to work with. So I would just say, you know, a part of my process is that I love to meet with my clients. I do a 10-minute Zoom meeting, and then you can knowing you, Phil, because, you know, you're so great and amazing and people are just going to want to talk to you. It's probably going to be longer than that, but you tell the client that it's going to be just, you're going to take 10 minutes of their time just so that you can get to know each other, and, you know, block out an hour, and just make it part of your process, because I think they're going to be that much more invested in you once they get to talk to you. I feel the same way. I so rarely get interaction with my clients, my dressing service clients, until the day of the wedding. Sometimes I do part of my service is that I'll zoom into their final fitting if they didn't buy their dress from me, which in a lot of cases with my dressing service, they don't buy their dress from me. So I'll meet them then, but I always love the opportunity to either talk with them or talk with a mom beforehand, because it just gives them this additional level of comfort to me coming in, and allows me to get to know them better too.
And everything I've consumed over the last month, the very first thing you should be trying to do with any lead that comes in is trying to talk to them.
I think so, in this day and age, because we don't do enough of that. And I think we're learning from this experience how valuable it is getting to see people and talk to them, and how it builds relationships so much. And so I'm hoping one of the bright things that are going to come out of this whole horrible experience is just that we're going to get back to communicating in a different way, and creating relationships in a different way that are going to lead to long lasting relationships, and are going to lead to that longevity, and lead to people singing your praises to everyone that they know, because you've been able to foster and develop this amazing relationship over this year or year and a half that you've been working together.
Love that. Any more questions?
All right. Well, this is so good, you guys. So you can reach out to me anytime.
Yes. And there's such a variety of different professionals in this group. So genuinely, if there's a topic that you want to talk about, I definitely want to start doing some on like creativity, and not just staying inspired, but I kind of needed it before all of this. So really, if you have any ideas, if they're crazy or not, send them our way and we'll find the right people to talk about it. I'm not the professional on any of these
Yeah.
subjects, so.
And I'm gonna, I'll send you guys a little present as a thank you to being on here. I recently did a talk for the Knot on this concept that I have of the tailored selling approach and selling to personalities. I gave a talk at a breakout and Engage several years ago. You might have seen that or might not. But what I'll do is I'll send you the link to the video of me talking and this great little personality identifier cheat sheet that you can just print out and keep in your office or use it to train your associates, whoever's working on your inquiries. And really what it allows you to identify the personality of the client based on their traits and then how to sell to them based on that personality. So as a little gift, I'll flip that your way and to thank you guys for your time.
That's awesome. And I'm going to make a Google Drive folder. We'll have Jackie's session in there and Beth's as well.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this, Nora. I think it's so helpful to everyone on so many different levels. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking on the subject nobody wants to talk about.
I love talking about it. I'll talk about it anytime, as you can tell.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.